Hey, it's Ethan here at eTrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Hollywood Rack's Destination E Hitch Bike Rack and how it fits on the back of our 2021 Nissan Rogue Sport. The Destination E is a two-bike platform style bike rack capable of supporting up to 70 pounds, and it's going to hold onto our bike primarily with this frame clamp here, as well as 3 straps down at the bottom. So with its design, it's really made with e-bikes in mind. So it's got a couple of features that are going to work really well with those specific bikes, but you can mix and match if you want to. And if you did want to get a carbon frame bike on here, we'd recommend against it just because it does make that frame contact, could potentially damage it while you're driving, or maybe you just have a really nice paint job and you want to avoid that. But if you have some heavier bikes that you want a little bit of help loading and unloading, this might be a great option for you. So let's check out how it works. If we want to tilt the bike rack away while the bikes are loaded up, we can. We'll have to come down here first, behind this center mast, and unthread this gray hand knob right here until it's able to be pushed down forward, just like that. And then it tilts super aggressively, so I find it easier to kind of hold on to the mast while I push it down. As you can see, it does help you out a little bit, so it's not like it's relying on me entirely. But once you get over that threshold, you might have to ease it down a little bit. And it tilts 90 degrees, which is a lot of space, so it doesn't come anywhere near our hatch. And we have a ton of room back here if we want to just chill out before or after our ride, change our shoes if we need to, or grab anything out of the back that we might need for that ride. I would also recommend tilting it back up from the back just because it's easier to get that leverage. And once we do, we might have to move that hand knob out of the way just a little bit, and then we can rethread that in and secure that up. To get our bike unloaded, I first want to talk about the ramp. So it doesn't integrate onto the rack, but it does telescope. So if you loosen up this knob in the back, you can adjust and accommodate different sizes if we need to, depending on where you are and what car you're driving. But one unfortunate detail about the Destination E is that you can only put it on one side or the other. You can't put it on all 4, so you're gonna have to keep that in mind when you show up to your campsite or the parking lot, wherever you're going to be. To fit it in, you just see this nub right there on the end. You slide that in, match it up, telescope it to however far you need or however much room you have. We don't have a ton of room in our shop here, so I'm going to go pretty short, and then we can work on getting the bike removed. Start with this back wheel strap here. You press this gray release on the other side. You pull that through. I like to kind of just hide them under the other cradles because we want them out of the way when we roll the bike off. We'll do the other 2 straps as well. As you can see, they have that rubberized padding around the straps to protect your tire just a little bit. Just nice that they add that on. Now we can come up here to the frame clamp. On the front here, you can see that there is a lock core. So if you lock that up, you won't be able to spin the knob and you won't be able to get your bike off. So it's just an extra little security feature. We can loosen that up until the jaws get wide enough that they come off our frame. Get that out of the way. And then we can slowly roll the bike down the ramp. Again, we don't have a ton of room in our case, but I'll give you a quick idea of what it would look like for you. And then I'll have to lift it up the rest of the way. With the bike unloaded, I already got our ramp put away. You will have to remember that you have to store that somewhere. To put these straps back in, and talk about the overall shape of the bike rack. It angles down on either side, which helps you accommodate a wheelbase of up to 50 inches. Replace these front 2 straps, and the cradles themselves are able to support a tire width of up to 4.5 inches. We'll get that out of the way, and now we can get the center mast folded down too. To do that, we'll first start by undoing these rubber straps and releasing these levers on either side, and then the mast will fold down. The cradles might get in the way just a little bit. It's fine, we can just work around that, and then we'll have to get these levers back down and get the straps replaced around them on either side again, just like this. And now we can get some measurements to see what it's like to add this onto the back of your vehicle. So in our case, from the bumper to the furthest point back on the rack, that's going to be adding about 39.5 inches. So with that center mast folded down, it definitely does add a good amount of space. As far as ground clearance goes, because the rack does angle down, like I mentioned, From this point, it's going to be about 13.5 inches from the ground. There's a decent rise, and the Rogue sits tall enough that I'm not going to be super worried about our ground clearance as far as going up hills or over curbs and bottoming out. If we want to cut down on some of that space, we can fold the rack up. First, we're going to have to start by taking this clip out, and then we might have to lift up on the rack just a little bit, and that pin comes out as well. And then we can fold the rack up and come back down here on the shank and replace that pin and the clip on the other side, and we'll get that new measurement to see how much space we saved. So now, from the bumper to the furthest point out, it's only going to be about 14 inches, so we cut down on a ton of space that way. It sits a little bit close, depending on where these cradles are. Nothing too bad. I'll get that measurement real quick, just to see what that would look like. So from the end to where our rack sits, you're still going to have about 4¼ inches. It might move up and down just a little bit, but not close enough that I'm worried about it making contact. One unfortunate thing though is that because of how it's designed, the Destination E is bulky and it does block a decent amount on the back of our vehicle. Your license plate will be visible from certain angles, but it's going to be partially obstructed from a lot of them as well. Our backup camera is right here on the side, which is pretty much directly in line with the right side if you're facing the car of our rack. So that's going to be at least pretty heavily obstructed. You're going to have some windows where you can see through, but you're definitely going to know the rack is back here. From certain angles, the top might actually block some of your taillights, but you're still going to have pretty good visibility out of your rear window. You might be able to see just the very top of our center mast here. The rack uses a 2-inch shank that fits into our 2-inch hitch receiver, held in place by this pin and the lock at the end that's going to be key to that frame lock that we talked about earlier. It's all secured down by this anti-rattle handle here in the back. You just tighten that up so it's tool-free, it's easy to install. We just like to recommend that you leave this horizontal so it's not facing down and taking away from your ground clearance. Overall, the Hollywood Rack's Destination E is a really robust bike rack. It's got a lot of features that I like that tilt is super aggressive and gives us a ton of room. I like the ramp design, although you do have to remember to bring it, and you can only put it on one side of each cradle, which is unfortunate. So if you do like the ramp, you might want to check out something like the Yakima On-Ramp. It's got an integrated ramp that you can put on all 4 of those cradles, but the ramp's a little thinner and it doesn't accommodate your tire width as well. So if you do like all the features that we talked about for the Hollywood Rack's Destination E, I still think it's a really solid choice. This was just a quick look at how it fits on a 2021 Nissan Rogue Sport.